Hi and welcome to the latest episode of One Patriots Place Live, brought to you by E2G Yes, I did nearly forget where I was there, folks. Your hosts today, let me see if I can remember their names. It's Steve Ballestori, Thomas Murphy. I am Claire Cooper, and we welcome in the senator himself of NBC Sports Boston, the super talented Mr. Phil Perry. Phil, welcome back to the show. How are things with you?
Things are going great. I'm in my office here where I'm always talking to you guys. Don't worry, I have pulled off the side of the road. I'm not actively driving, so you won't have any viral moments, hopefully, for bad driving.
This is good. We like road safety here. We promote road safety.
Very important.
It is. So, my two co-hosts are really, really quiet, which is really unusual because they've usually both chimed in by now. Well, so because they haven't, I'm going to take the opportunity to snatch it away from them and ask you.
There's a first time for everything, Claire.
There is.
Yeah, there is a first time for everything.
This is it. I'm so glad that you said that you're in the know. So it's a topic that everybody is working to death, and we're still going to chew over it because it needs to be said. Do you have any idea what the offensive line can do during this bye week to sort themselves out?
Get off my lawn, woman.
I think there's a couple things, and I'm sure Murph will have a follow-up when it comes to this group because there's a lot to talk about here. But number one, I would say, is get your center back healthy, right? I think that helps everybody because he's so smart, because he's so vital to the overall operation. So I think the hope is that he'll be able to play after the bye here. So that's step number one. Step number two would be find some consistency with your personnel. So outside of Andrews, you have Trent Brown on the left side. Great. Okay, you have Michael Wenu at right guard, who's been phenomenal. Don't move him. You have to figure out the rest of your spots and feel good enough about them that you can feel like you can roll with them the rest of the way. Consistency matters. Continuity matters. Chemistry matters. These are things Dante Scarnecchia used to talk with us about all the time. And if you have guys in and out of the lineup, whether it's Cole Strange or Isaiah Wynn or anybody else, it makes it hard on everybody else. So find some continuity. I would say if Cole Strange is your best left guard, get him there and keep him there and let him grow through some of these issues that he's having lately, because it hasn't looked good and he's gotten overpowered and maybe he's hit a little bit of a wall because he's a rookie and because between the preseason and the training camp and now the regular season, he's already exceeded probably any number of snaps that he's ever played before. But if he's your guy, then get him out there and keep him out there. And the last thing I would say is, and this is going to be hard, but I think you do have to get a little bit more diversity in what you're doing. And I think, it's great to be simple. I think they're too simple right now, especially when it comes to their run game. Guys, they are a power team. They're a zone team. They are a crack toss team. And occasionally lately, they've done a little bit of trapping. So that a little bit has been sprinkled in there. I just don't know if they have enough variety to keep teams off balance. And you heard Bill Belichick acknowledge recently that teams know what's coming these last 2 weeks. CJ Mosley, Shaq Leonard, these guys are jumping concepts, they're jumping plays. And I think it's because it's pretty easy to tell what's coming because they only run so many things. So that would be the third thing to me. But guys, that's really hard. And in a bye week, do you really want to be adding to the playbook for an offense that struggled? I don't know if that's the best idea. So they're in a tough spot right now because it's about getting healthy. It's about finding pieces that you trust, which are hard to find. And it's about, to me, expanding the playbook a little bit. If you can somehow do all three of those things, I think the offensive line would be a lot better for it.
Do you think there is anybody there that they could plug in? There's anybody out there, kind of anybody available that could actually be plugged in?
I think it'd be hard right now in terms of picking up somebody in free agency. Obviously, the trade deadline is come and gone. I just think right now you have what you have. You're dealing with a little bit of a different set of terminology than what the Patriots have dealt with before. So even for somebody like Marcus Cannon, when he got back to New England, there were things there that were new to him that he had to try to figure out. I do think, I probably, if he's healthy, I probably would go with him when I can. I don't know when that's going to happen. I had one teammate last week describe to me that concussion is scary. It's never a good thing. These are guys that, and I don't want to minimize any concussion, but, these are guys that are pretty used to seeing guys get concussed at one point or another. And so that stood out to me. So I don't know when Cannon will be back. I think if he can get back and get healthy, I do think he might be your best option because of what he does in the run game. I think he's had a little bit of trouble with quickness on the outside and pass protection. But if you can get that big body out there and just lean on some people between him and Big Mike and Trent, you should be able to do more in the run game than they've done.
Mm-hmm.
But since Claire jumped in on my usual topic, and Steve is ignoring the chat room, I want to talk about tight ends a little bit. I have seen a glaring lack of quality blocking from this tight end group, whether they're in 12 or 1 personnel. It's just not happening. Was I spoiled by N'Keal Harry and being able to block off the line and stick somebody in the ear? What's going on here? This is paramount when it comes to being a strong running team, a run first team, and it's really not going on. What's the glitch?
I'm not sure those guys are.
Look at her. Look at her
That's
face.
What it comes down to. I'm sorry, Claire. To me, it's a strength thing. It's probably a technique thing at times too. And those guys have had quality blocks. I thought on the 16-yard run for Ramondre against the Colts, it was Hunter Henry leading the way. That was sort of maybe another little interesting wrinkle for the run game. Okay, so we've seen that a couple times last week. Maybe that becomes, it's funny. They make it very clear to anybody who wants to know they're getting away from the fullback, and yet their best run last week, they end up using the tight end a little bit like a fullback out of the backfield. So I think, though, neither of these guys, and people knew this when they signed them. Jonnu Smith was thought to be the better blocker of the two, but I don't think either guy anybody was confusing for, not only Rob Gronkowski, but even like a Matt Lengel type, who's only on the team because he blocks as a tight end. You know what I mean? He's basically a glorified tackle. That's not what these guys are, but they do have to win a bigger share of their matchups, like Jonnu Smith. Again, he's probably the better blocker of the two, and maybe it's a scheme thing, guys. Maybe that's part of it as well. But, when Jonnu Smith's asked to block Kwity Paye off the edge on a run play, he has to be able to hit slow him down. He can't just get run through.
Give me a chip, something.
And have a when you have, guys getting hit in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage as consistently as the Patriots have been, that's an everything problem. I'm glad you brought it up because I think they get lost in the shuffle. But Murph, they are as much to blame at times as the offensive line when it comes to some of these stuffed runs and these just blown up negative plays.
Thanks. I get 2 good points a week to bring up, and that was one of them. The other
one,
you
used your one there, so hopefully you get another one for a different point.
You mentioned the other night on I believe it was the post game show how often the Patriots are getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. How impressive is Ramondre Stevenson in the fact that he is getting yards after the carry when he's being hit 2 yards in the backfield? Did that come through?
He is so freaking impressive, man. He's unbelievable. I don't know how else to describe him at this point. He's just such a horse. And it's not just the power. To me, it's the balance too. His balance is so incredible after he gets hit. And you see him sometimes use that offhand to keep himself up 6 yards just because he is refusing to go down and using. So if they didn't have him, I don't know where this offense would be right now. I mean, it's already been bad. We know that. But without Stevenson, and I think that's why you hear Bill Belichick professing his love for the guy at the podium. Like, I would love him too if I was Bill, because without him, I don't know where you are right now. Between him and Nick Folk, really, like, if you didn't have these two guys, you'd be hoping to score on special teams and defense every week, because I'm not sure how else you'd do it.
Hey, Phil, I just want to ask you something real quick about I do a report card every week. I know you do one, and I never read yours until after mine's published, because I know a lot of people do them, but I don't like seeing what other people are up to until I get my thoughts on paper, and then I'll read everyone else's. But I didn't get a chance to read yours this week. It's been a little hectic. But, looking at the skill position guys, your quarterback and your wide receivers, I found it really difficult to accurately be critical or positive about those guys because of the struggles the offensive line came through. I was wondering what your feelings were on that subject as well.
I think it's really difficult to grade the quarterback sometimes because, and listen, we're all doing it, like you said. And so all you can really grade is what happens in the game. But I'll point to a play that the two former Patriots brought up to me this week, Ted Johnson, and we talked about it on our show, The Breakdown, and then Matt Castle, I spoke to him earlier this week, brought up the same play. It was a sack early in the game. It was 3rd and 10. They got a -5 on the first play of the drive. Then they got 5 back, so it's 3rd and 10. And Mac Jones looks like he has a pretty good pocket. And he's looking down the field. You have these long developing deep routes. The Colts do a great job at getting a ton of depth in the secondary. So all of those receivers down the field are capped, and you really got nowhere to go with the ball except for to your outlet, Hunter Henry. And I thought he was there, and I thought Mac Jones had him. He doesn't. He scrambles, and he ends up getting sacked. Series over. Now, I could look at that and say, bad play by Mac Jones. You got to find your check down and at least get some of that yardage back, especially with all the depth that the Colts had gotten on that play. You might actually be able to pick up the first down just by throwing it to Hunter Henry in the flat. But then you look at that play more closely, and not only is he probably a little skittish based on the protection that he's gotten really all year, really back to training camp. Like there's not a ton of reason to believe in this offensive line right now if you're Mac Jones. So that's probably number one. So, do you put that on Mac Jones? Yeah, but do you put some of it on just big picture, what's going on with this offense this year? Yeah, I probably would. The other thing is Hunter Henry's a little late getting out into that route because they're asking him to chip. Talk about a chip there, Murph, right? Mm-hmm. They're asking him to chip on Yodny Kajust's side because that early in the game, Kajust had already had a couple of rough snaps. And I think they know, well, if we let Yodny try to block this guy one-on-one, I think it's Yannick Ngakoue on that side. If we try to let him block him one-on-one, well, the guy's going to be in Mac Jones's lap in a second and a half. So we have to chip. So Mac Jones is looking at it like, okay, well, we can't protect, but we're going to max protect here. And so maybe I'll get my guy down the field. But if none of them are open, then I basically have to tuck and run because even though we're max protecting, we're probably not going to have enough time for me to hold on to the ball for 3 seconds. So Hunter Henry to Mac Jones, he's not even really out into his route by the time he's decided to tuck the ball and go. And so, again, that's just one play. We could sit here and talk about that one play for half an hour. But that's one play that I would say is not a great play for Mac Jones. But I would say look at the circumstances and look at what led to that play and why it unfolded the way that it did. And I say, well, that's not really Mac's fault. That's an offensive line that can't protect, so they got to keep the tight end in. That's a scheme, that's a play call that I didn't think it was all that well spaced in terms of the route running, but no, you get a certain coverage, like that thing has no chance. So it's really hard with the quarterback. I think it's hard sometimes with the receivers too. The issue to me with the receivers is, it's hard for us to tell, okay, are they creating enough separation here? Are they not? But like, to me, what's been rough with the receivers lately is just hands on the football. Like,
right.
Just catch it. just like Kendrick Bourne early in the game. Like people were wondering, well, why isn't Mac Jones looking Kendrick Bourne's way in that game? Because it looked like there were a few plays where he just straight up wasn't looking at him, couldn't get to him in the progression. He's sitting there looking for a first down on the right side of the field. Mac Jones is turned to the left side. Well, like, I don't know. The guy has kind of disappeared all year, and I don't think it's necessarily his fault, but I'm not sure he's done a ton to really kind of push through that adversity. I mean, the guy's played a ton of snaps the last 2 weeks, and he's been non-existent. And not only has he been non-existent, but you drop a throw early in that game, then you get another one late and you fumble it. How is anybody supposed to have confidence? Like, yes, you should have had more opportunities early in the season. Okay, you're getting your opportunities now. You got to make the most of them to get whatever trust it is that you feel like you've deserved from day one. And he really hasn't done it. Tyquan Thornton, as the ball hit him in the shins, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, bad ball by Mac Jones. It's like, well, yeah,
bend
sure,
over.
Can you bend over? Can you lay out? Are we over that? Like he wasn't looking for the football. That's a problem to me. So the receiver group has left a lot to be desired, and I think there are some things where, yes, it's like overall scheme and protection, and it's hard to make grades. But then there are some plays like that, Steve, where I look at and I'm like,
yep,
I don't feel that bad given the group a low grade when they have those types of plays.
Right. Everybody's screaming for Dante Scarnecchia to come back. I want the Dorito dink back, so maybe these guys can freaking hang on to the football. We'll take a half a pound out here or there, and somebody can hang on to the ball.
Speaking of variety, Phil, you mentioned that earlier. I watched the game back a couple of times against my better judgment. But, they had like, I think it was 15 out of 23 first down calls were runs. And I want to go back to the first 5 because the first 4 times they had the ball on a first down, it was a run for -2, a run for -5, a 1-yard run, a 1-yard run. And then they passed, and Jonnu Smith had that 24-yard screen. I really think they need to start mixing it up on first down because teams are they're expecting the run. I know they're a run-first football team, but I think you got to mix it up a little bit because it's not fair to your running backs or your receivers because then you're always behind the sticks.
Predictable, it just does feel like, Steve, you're right. They are just too predictable when it comes to the number of run plays they have or run pass splits out of shotgun under center. There's not a lot of, misdirection. It doesn't even really feel like, I know they've tried to work in the screen game, but the screen game doesn't seem to have a ton of variety right now. So I think they're trying. I don't know if they're pivoting too quickly from certain things or not pivoting quickly enough to certain other things, but there's no question that defenses have a sense of what they're going to do, whether it's Shaq Leonard and CJ Mosley actually like knowing what the call is exactly, or whether it's their defensive coordinators saying, okay, it's first down, expect run here because they love to run on for, or hey, they're in the shotgun, and so they're going to probably, go 4 verticals here. And, it can't be that easy. And I think they really wanted to, when the season began, simplify things. And I get that. You don't want to throw the Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels playbook at every new person that comes into your organization. It's a lot to ask. But you can't also be so simple that the other team knows what you're doing because nobody's good enough to be able to execute when that happens. Mm-hmm. You could have the mid 90s Cowboys offensive line. And if the other team knows where you're going and you can't do anything about it, it's not going to matter. Those plays are going to get blown up. So simple, great. You can't be so simple that the other team knows your plays as well as your team does, like that. Mm-hmm. And you can't be so simple that the other team knows situationally how you're going to handle any given situation. So again, can you fix that during the bye is the question to me. Is it Bill Belichick? Does he just have to swoop in and say, guys, all right, you had half the season. It was actually even more than we were planning on before we really assessed this thing and evaluated how it was going. But we lost our quarterback for a month. But now we're 9 games in. We had 5 games with the quarterback. We got a serious data set here to work from.
Right.
And it's not good enough. And so either, does Bill do something drastic and say, I'm the captain now and I'm calling the plays? Or is it something personnel wise? Is it something scheme wise? Or they start to go really different? Like, I don't know, but I do think that everything should be on the table because they can't continue on the way they've played on these last few weeks. Was that
Phil,
a mic drop moment?
Confidence.
That was a mic drop. That might have been a mic drop.
Oh.
just drop the mic and walk right out of my car and onto the expressway.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Because it's not going to get any better.
No.
Well, you mentioned confidence earlier in regards to Matt, and now I know that this is kind of like a tricky question to sort of throw at you, but do you have any insight, or do you believe that Mac's discomfort is coming anything from the uncertainty at coaching, contrary to what he's always said at the podium? Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the difference in Mac Jones when he's standing in the pocket now. And there's just sort of, he's missing his read significantly. There just isn't the confidence there. Now, granted, I understand that the offensive line is collapsing in front of him, and it's a difficult situation to be in a quarterback when you can see that. But his overall confidence really seems to be at kind of, the tank seems to be empty. Do you believe that this could be the coaching thing? Is this a Mac thing? Are we talking an all the above sort of thing?
I think it's a little bit of everything, but I do think, if you're Mac Jones and you're looking at the coaching and you're looking at what you had last year that worked pretty well.
Yeah.
And you look at the responsibilities you had as a quarterback last year to be able to change the plays and get your team into the right play, and the breadth of offense that you could pull from only as a rookie last year, and you felt pretty good about it. And now you have less, and you have opponents who know what you're going to do. It would be hard to be confident. And I think it goes into how some of this stuff is being taught too. He was pretty open with us earlier in the year. I have to know the purpose of the play, why that play is being called. Why is that the choice in a given situation? Because if he knows that, then he, in his mind, has a better opportunity to execute the play that everybody's looking for. If he doesn't, it's harder to have that buy-in. And it's not about even necessarily, do I think these guys are smart guys, or do I trust them, or do I like them as people? But if you don't know why you're doing something and you're just, you're being programmed to just do it, just to do it, I think with anybody in any line of work, it would hard to be confident in that thing. Right. And so, I think I've heard people argue, for people that still like Bailey Zappi and the idea of him playing more, well, he's just going to do what he's told and not think about it. Well, that's great because he's a rookie and he's from Western Kentucky and Houston Baptist. And, so he, when they say jump, he's always going to say how high. But at some point, you can't run every play the way that it's been drawn up in the playbook. And when you get outside of structure, then what can you do? And do you understand the play and the purpose of the play well enough to understand, where it's going to go? Or if you get hit with an unexpected look from a defense, this is how I can handle it because I understand what the purpose of this play is. I know what the idea is behind this play call and why we're trying to pull the trigger on this thing. Whereas 3-step drop, hit my back foot, look at the hook. If it's not there, check it down. Okay, well, if a wrench gets thrown into that while you're doing your computing, and that's a fine way for a young quarterback to try to go about it. I'm not, criticizing Bailey Zappi here, but I think, it's like anything else, when you're learning something in school, like memorization versus true understanding of a given topic.
Right.
What's better? I would say it's the latter, because you're going to understand that there are multiple ways to get to that end. There are many different ways to skin a cat. And I think Mac Jones knows that he has the ability to do that. He has the aptitude to be able to figure those things out, but I'm not sure he always understands the purpose And I think that still might be going on.
That's a shame.
Keeping it with coaching, I mean, Phil, what is your view on Matt Patricia? Officially, he's the O-line coach and he's also the play caller on offense. Is he doing too much? Is he qualified to be the play caller? Is he just a scapegoat from Chris Goodwin?
Great question, Chris.
Well, I think a lot of the offensive line responsibility, honestly, has gone to Bill Yates. And I know Matt Patricia is still the offensive line coach by title, and so he's still running the show there. But even with Bill Yates taking on more, I would say certainly he's been spread too thin. Is there anybody in the league that does both of these jobs right now outside of Matt Patricia? And if there was, wouldn't that person probably have a little bit of experience in either one or the other job? And now you're talking about a guy trying to learn both on the fly and figure it out. It's the reason why, guys, people around the league are looking at this and how the Patriots offense has performed, and they're shrugging their shoulders and saying, well, what did you expect? You know, we reported on it starting back at the Combine when we got the sense that this was how the Patriots were going to do things, that it was going to be Matt Patricia, it was going to be Joe Judge, Bill Belichick was going to be heavily involved, but these were going to be that was going to be the brain trust offensively. And you had high-level people, high-level people in the game, coordinator level people, general manager level people telling me just how stunned they were by that choice. Now, a lot of them defer to Bill Belichick and say, well, it's Bill, and Bill knows more than I do, and he's the smartest man in football. And so I'm sure he'll have something figured out. But that wasn't everybody. And there were some that were saying, all right, they were eager to see how it was going to look because they are not Patriots people. And if you're not a Patriots person, you're itching for the Patriots to finally hit some hard times here. Yep. And, so they're biased, right? So when they're telling me just how flabbergasted they are by those choices, by Matt Patricia being the guy to lead your team offensively, they're stunned, they're shocked, they can't believe it, they laugh, some of them. But now we're halfway through the season, and were they wrong? I think there's still time for Patricia to show us that they were, and for Bill Belichick to show us that they were, and that this could be a good choice, and that everything will end up the way they hope it does in the end. But it looks like it's going the opposite direction. We've seen a lot of games here, and I'm not sure anybody feels better about the offense now than they did 2 or 3 weeks into the season. So that to me is maybe the biggest issue, is that this was predictable. And I don't necessarily blame Patricia all that much because, did he want the job? Did he push for the job? I don't know. I don't know how he ended up with the job that he got, but I know Bill Belichick's in charge, and I know Bill Belichick is the guy who gave him the gig. And so, when Bill tells Dan Shaughnessy at the beginning of the year, hey, if it doesn't look good, blame me. All right, well,
blaming you.
Here we go. This is his problem now, and he's going to have to fix it.
But before we flip over to the good side of the ball, the side that we all love to talk about, the red zone issues are bugging me to the point where I'm losing hair, and I don't like that. Why can I not get a wide receiver running across the back of the end zone? Why is J.J. Taylor in there at goal line, running the ball up in between tackles? Can you explain any of this to me?
Murph?
Don't like short people.
What's
carrying
your issue
the football
with us little people?
from the 2-yard line? I don't want you carrying the ball from the 2-yard line either, Claire. Sorry. Any idea, Phil? Phil's taking selfies.
I was shocked to see that too. I mean, why is Ramondre? That was early in the game too, right? I mean,
yeah.
Why is Ramondre Stevenson not out there? I don't understand. So, I would say, I think something they're still trying to figure out. Remember early in the season in the red zone where they went with like that 2-back, almost like 1993 style pro formation in the backfield, and then they just handed it to one and let him run straight ahead. Like that was unusual, but we haven't seen it again. I think they're really reluctant to throw it in the red zone, and I kind of understand that given their turnover issues this year. But you can't be, again, it just gets back to Steve's point about the predictability. Like you have to do something different. I mean, and I'm not saying this should be the basis of anybody's offense, but like, when's the last time they ran any kind of like trick play with any kind of success? You know, they tried the end round thing a couple times with Kendrick Bourne, but it felt like with Josh McDaniels, almost on a weekly basis, you'd have some sort of
he would pull something cute out of the bag.
Halfback pass, receiver pass, like just to get you going. And like this offense is the definition of an offense that needs something to get them going. You know, an explosive play that's unexpected that can put some points on the board. They're desperate right now, and yet they're just going back to the well on the same things over and over. I mean, crack toss. It feels almost like it's not quite Cam Newton era. Ted and I joke about this all the time. Ted Johnson on the breakdown, where when we did that show in 2020, the offense was so basic and it was so limited with Cam. It was crack toss. It was like the only play we could break down every week was crack toss because it was the only play that actually did anything for them. And so, you know, it was the running joke on our show.
They're running the wing T out there.
And now we're like kind of getting back. But it's almost the same thing now. And it should be. Like, you got a second-year quarterback. You got some pretty talented pieces. Like, there's no reason for that to be the case. So I just think it gets back to that point about variety. Yep, mix up the routes, mix up the red zone approach. Don't have to run it in there all the time, and do something a little different. How about a direct snap to, you know, the James White or the Kevin Faulk play, however you want to define it. You know, 2016 Super Bowl or 2003 Super Bowl. Like, use that stuff. Or was it 04 maybe with Faulk against the Panthers? No, it was 03. That was Panthers. 04 was Eagles. Anyway, nobody cares about that. But, you know, everybody knows that play. Everybody knows that play that I'm talking about, and it might be something that helps, and we haven't seen it. So, you know, variety is the spice of life. That's what I would say, and so spice it up a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
They need Mosey to Tupu.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Bring him back.
There we
Bring
go.
him back. Get Scar coaching the line. Bring Mosey to Tupu back. Get Andre Tippett out there rushing the passer. It would be beautiful.
I'm trying really hard not to say bring somebody back who I want to bring back because I know I'll get flack. So I'm trying really
Go ahead,
hard to
say it.
No, I'm being back.
Say it.
H to the is O.
Yeah.
To the is A. Is that it?
Hey,
Did I guess
hey
right?
Phil,
We're still obsessed with this on this show, right?
Let's talk about the defense. I thought, granted, the Colts are very limited right now. It seems, I'm not going to say suck for luck, but maybe horrible for whoever that dude is. But even still, I thought the Patriots defense did a great job. They did a really good job stopping the run. They definitely get after Sam Ellinger. And how about them red sleeves, man? I think the Colts are going to be seeing red sleeves in their sleep.
They've been great. I mean, it's really hard, I think, at times to look at a team like the Colts and see a great defensive performance and say, you know, tip of the cap to you. But they were so dominant. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's a level of dominance that
Phil froze up.
Yep.
I said,
Just
did we
me?
lose Phil? Just me. No, I say he froze my end too.
Well, let's just keep. Yeah, let's see if he gets back. I thought that you know, no matter who you're out there against, you know, I tweeted out during the game. Neither of you heard it because you mute me during the game, but you know, there was a lot of talk this week about the Colts tanking. You know, even before the coaching change, I don't. You can talk about an organization tanking, but I don't think that you can talk about players tanking, because they just don't do it. You know, these guys are out there busting their hump. to keep their job or get their next job or whatever. And what the Patriots were able to do on defense this week was really astounding in my estimation. They held this team to 0 for 100 on third and fourth down this week. No,
Over 16.
yeah, 0 for 16. It was that is extraordinary. Okay, you'd be hard pressed to have a professional football team go out there and stop Alabama on 0 for 16 on third down. And that's not saying the Colts are worse than Alabama. That's not what I mean. I just pulled Alabama out of my back pocket there. Against UConn, they're going to get convert 1 third down. They're going to convert 1 fourth down and 1. They're going to get that 3 feet. But I mean, what the Patriots did this week on defense was nothing short of fantastic. I'm going to ask both of you, how important was it to the Patriots last Sunday after what happened last year against the Colts? Hey, he's back.
Sorry, everybody. Phone overheated. I don't know how that happens in November.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Because that happens. That happens around Claire a lot. When you're talking to Claire, my phone is overheated a couple of times, especially when she's done her hair.
The takes are too hot. You know what I mean? Guys, I get on the horn with you guys. You guys are lobbing bombs like crazy. The phone can't keep up.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was asking about Matthew Judon, and I made a smart alecky quote about the Colts seeing red sleeves in their sleep this week.
They are so lucky that they have Judon, because I say that because Christian Barmore's been out, and I know Josh Uche's given them a little something as a pass rusher, and so that helps. But man, the guy is a negative play machine, and it's not just as a pass rusher. He's been knocking guys over on crossing routes when they get near him, and he's played the run, I thought, a lot better this year than he has in years past. Like, he gets that stop on 4th and 1 because he's disciplined and he understands his assignment and he's technically sound and he's just doing all the right things. And so I think 2 things moving forward will be really important for him, because you don't want to see the tail off that we saw last year from him, right? Where he just disappeared.
Right.
You needed him. Number one, they've done a really good job of capping his snaps on a weekly basis to right around 50. And he's exceeded it a couple times. But if you go back and you look at his snap counts, it feels like that's the number that they're trying to keep him at. And if you look last year around this time, he was over 50 almost every week. Last I checked, right? He was an every down player, and I understood it at the time. He's your best defensive player. He's in the running for defensive player of the year. You didn't have a ton of other options. So, get him out there and run him till the wheels fall off. Well, they fell off. And so now I think between the snap counts and the emergence of 2 guys, really, to me, it's Uche could be really helpful moving forward if he can keep this up. But also Dietrich Wise. Dietrich Wise is an absolute Iron Man out there. He plays in every situation. He's almost 300 pounds. He's 295, he told me earlier this year, which I don't think he's listed at 295, but he's gotten bigger over the years to make sure that he's capable of handling all the responsibilities that they give him, to play inside at times, to hold up against the run. For a guy who's almost 300 pounds to play as much as he does is phenomenal. We don't think of him like DeForest Buckner, and he's not that kind of talent. Like, I don't want to put him in that class, but that's sort of how they're using him. Like, DeForest Buckner plays a crap ton of the snaps because he's a great player. Wise's usage has been through the roof. So because he's been so consistent on the edge, that's another reason you can rest Judon a little bit. That's another reason why I think, the Colts won't be the last team that's seeing red sleeves in their sleep here.
Right.
That's the name that I was
going
going
to
ask you
about Dietrich Wise, because we saw how Judon tailed off, and are you worried that they might have that same situation with him this year?
I do. I do. To me, it's just so, it's unusual enough that I would worry about that. Now, he is in tremendous condition. It's the reason he has been able to play as much as he has played. He is a workout maniac, is what everybody will tell you inside that building. And, you know, I mean, the guy is a specimen. To be as long as he is and be so powerful still in his movements, you know, he's a special physical specimen. I mean, there's just not many guys out there with the kind of length that he has, and the kind of power. And so I just, you know, he reminds me a little bit of, and to me, he's been better this year than really, you know. So the name I'll tell you that I'm thinking of when I think of Wise this year is Andre Carter. You guys remember Andre Carter?
Yeah.
Sort of here, like the early 2010s.
Yep.
And had 1 year, I believe, where he was a 10-sack guy. I want to say he got to 10. I'm not sure. Mark Anderson was on the opposite side. Remember Mark
They
Anderson?
both got 10.
He had a random, I think, 12 or 12 and a half sack year. But Carter was similar in that, man, this guy was built like a Greek god. Unbelievable length in terms of, like, not even just his arms, his hands too. Both these guys have massive hands, which really helps them control their blockers and discard them.
Yep.
You know, to me, Wise has been even better than I think Carter really ever was, for the Patriots at least. Carter had some good years other places, but yeah, that's another guy who this week you got to make sure he gets his rest because you need him moving forward.
Why do you think it's taken 6 years for him to really kind of have this breakout, as you know, some people like to throw around? Because it really does seem like don't get me wrong, he's been a good player, but it seems a bit of an all of a sudden he's taken that leap that guys, you know, you expect guys to have in kind of year 2, year 3 when they've settled. It seems to have taken him to year 6. And I know it's something that people kind of, we've discussed comically, but what's your opinion on that?
I think part of it is the defense has changed a little bit, you know, so when he gets here, you know, Matt Patricia is still here. He's here for a couple of years with Matt Patricia. That was really a 4-3 style defense. And so he was a 4-3 end, and that was sort of what he was in college as well. And so, you know, at that point, you're just, you know, you're playing a position that's familiar to you, and but you're still young, right? And so you're just kind of getting your feet wet and you're coming along. Then the defense, as you know, as you mentioned, when you should be kind of emerging, then the defense changes. Patricia leaves, they go back to more of a 3-4 style, and that's when he started to try to bulk up, because he really is not an outside linebacker, right? You would never really ask him to drop into coverage all that much and do some of the things that they ask you to do to play on the edge as an outside linebacker, the way they asked Judon, the way they asked Uche. You know, he's just he's a bigger guy. He's a 4-3 end. That's really how he's built. He was built to play in a 4-3.
Yep.
But he changed his body to try to adapt to the changes of the defense. And I think then you have you have almost another like new player getting used to a new defense in a new-ish role. And so now it's another couple of years where you're trying to get used to that. And now they have almost like this hybrid thing going on where they have used him as a stand-up outside linebacker at times, but they're still using him inside in pass rush situations, using him on the edge on early down situations. And, you know, I think he's a really smart guy. And I think there's another thing here too, where I do think this has an impact on people, because these guys are people. They're human beings, right?
Yep.
He's always been a good leader, but it's been only recently where, you know, he's been recognized in title as one of those guys, you know, and so for him to be thought of, you know, as a captain, I think really impacts how you view your job. And I don't think he's even made that many distinct changes, but there's a responsibility level that comes with that I think can get a little bit more out of you. And I remember feeling the same way about Dante Hightower, who obviously had a great early part of his career with the Patriots.
Yep.
But then I felt like he kind of took it to another level once he got recognized as a captain. There's, you know, I really do think that's a motivating factor for certain guys that want to perform for their team and that want to set the right kind of example. Once you get that title, there's a lot that comes with that. And I think it can help elevate some guys' games. And so I think that's happened with Wise too.
Speaking of elevated games, and Jawan Bentley is playing out of his freaking shoes lately. He had a fantastic game on Sunday. What do you think of him as a leader, and how has his game changed to the point that he's playing so well right now?
He's so well thought of in that locker room. He's a smart guy, fundamentally sound, and just so tough. I think this is an era of football where tough ass players they're all tough, right? They're all tougher than me, right? I'm not going to pretend sitting at a keyboard or sitting in front of a camera with a microphone is tough in any way, shape, or form. Although, every once in a while, the weather in Buffalo gets a little tough. You guys know that. So, I think I really got to bear down in those moments, dig deep, and express my toughness that way. Like clearly, but it's a different game now. And so the guys like Bentley, a lot of teams don't even want him. He's too big. He's not fast enough. He's not, he wasn't even on. I remember talking to people in the league when he was coming out of the draft because I thought he was a good fit for the Patriots. And they thought he wasn't even on teams' boards. Like teams that drafted linebackers. I talked to one team that drafted multiple linebackers that year. He wasn't on their board because he just didn't fit what they thought today's game was.
Right.
But Bill still loves it. It still brings a lot to the team. Sort of an intangible that it brings to the team in terms of toughness. And I think he's actually had a really consistent year. He shows up as a pass rusher every once in a while as a blitzer, but to me, he's been really sound against the run.
Just a thumper, man.
Yeah, and I think he's one of the reasons they're playing as well as they are right now. That's probably the one unit on this team that they all want the bye. Don't get me wrong, but they're going so good right now defensively that they're probably looking at it saying, man, it'd be maybe this would have been maybe a decent year to have a week 12 by, let's just keep it rolling because it's been so good for them. Yeah. It's been so good for them lately.
That's it.
Another success story has been John Jones. Sorry, Murph. Moving on to the outside. Yep. That seems to they've slotted him in really well as well.
Oh, no question. They love him in terms of his skill set. I think they understand him there. He probably needs to get a little bigger. There's some things that he'll be able to do better against the run, probably starting next year. I think he's actually improved though over the course of this season. It wasn't that long ago in Green Bay, the Packers were targeting him in the run game. They said, let's just get outside to wherever John Jones is, and we'll just run over the guy. He's 180 pounds or whatever he is. I don't even know if he was that much at the combine this year. But he's gotten better. You see him making those classic cornerback stuff because you're not going to muscle up on a guy in the flat, but you make those shoestring tackles on the guy, kind of upend him that way. He's so quick off his back foot and making those transitions that are really key to be able to make plays on the football, but also just to be able to rally to the ball quickly. When he hits his back foot, if he knows where he's supposed to go, it happens in an instant. There's no false steps. The explosiveness that he has in his lower body for a smaller guy is really, really impressive. And, I've talked to multiple people in there, veteran guys, Jabril Peppers, Devin McCourty. They'll tell you, they could work all off season, every year of their career for 10 years on transitions and on that kind of lower body twitch and never get it to the point where Jack Jones already has it. And that's speaking, that's saying a lot, I think, especially coming from guys like that have played a lot in this league. So he's just got to keep it up. I think, it's actually kind of interesting. It feels like, I don't know if teams are consciously going away from him, but it feels like he hasn't had as many opportunities to make plays on the ball lately. And I'm not saying that teams are treating him like Revis and they're just not going to throw to his side of the field, but it just does feel like it's been a while before he's had a great shot at one. And so that's a good thing. Make him go after, Jalen Mills or Jonathan Jones. And, I think the Patriots would feel okay with that. I thought Jalen Mills had a really good game last week, a couple of pass breakups. So it feels like everybody on that side of the ball is playing well right now.
Phil, what's wrong with Jake Bailey?
True. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Murph, I wish I knew. I don't know nearly enough about punting or the operation there. One thing that I have noticed, and I'm not explaining away anything for Jake Bailey, on a couple of those, the sort of sidewinders that we've seen, I'm thinking of one out of the back of the end zone this week. It was early in the game. I think it was the 36-yard punt early in the game where they were punting out of their own end zone, and just gave the Colts just amazing field position because he just got it off the side of the foot. It looked like a low snap to me, like he had to kind of pluck it off his shoe tops and then kind of regroup and get it away. That's not all that unusual. And again, you still shouldn't be, you're better than that if you're Jake Bailey.
Yeah.
But maybe there's something going on with the operation there that we're not taking into account when we see some of those shorter punts, because I don't think he's hurt, and I don't think he all of a sudden has just started to suck. But
that was my next question. Yeah.
Is there just something mental going on there where his timing, his footwork, he's got, like a 7-yard punt at the end of the game the other day. Like that one, all those guys, that almost made it into the stands.
Yeah.
And how far removed those stands are on the sidelines between the bench area. Then you have like this little warning track thing that kind of goes, like lines the outer like that landed and like short hopped the wall separating the crowd from the field. That landed on the little warning track thing there. Like I saw him. I told Scott Zolak this before doing my radio hit before the game for his Sports Hub. I was just kind of watching the team warm up, and I got my specs up there, and I'm just trying to do my thing and just get everybody get a sense for where everybody's at. Jake Bailey in warm-ups like almost killed a guy on the sidelines, on the Colts sideline, because he just completely almost missed it, but hit like a liner just right at the Colts sideline.
Wow.
So, and that's in warm-ups. So like, I wish I could tell you. I
don't see him being rushed back there. I haven't seen many bad snaps come his way, and that's why I just keep thinking that there's something physically wrong with him. But the mental aspect that you bring up is something else that I didn't even think about. Punters are a weird freaking group. They kind of live off on their own, and aren't generally part of any group like you would be with the offensive line or with the running back room or anything like that. Yeah, punters are like goalies. They're just strange, and they what? Why is shaking your finger at me?
Punters. So because
I know you do, but Bailey, there's something happening here.
There is. We still love punters. Thank you very much.
I didn't. Oh my God.
How
often do I tweet out that? Yeah, isn't it great? I love punters. We love
Claire,
punters.
I had to review the movie Notting Hill for the Zolak and Bertrand show last week.
Wow.
I don't know if you're a fan of that movie or what you think of it, but I did. I just I got a heaping helping of British accents.
Yeah, like you, it's before Claire's time. Claire's only 22 years old.
I have seen the movie. I have seen the movie. It's not my favorite, but I have seen it. Yeah.
I didn't love it either. I think I had to review. It's somehow become like a movie program when I'm on for them. Yeah, so I did Perfect Storm for them too. I actually liked it better than Perfect Storm. So like relative to Perfect Storm, I thought it was pretty good, but I think I'd probably lean more towards you. Just the only
thing bad about Perfect Storm was the accents. Other than that, it was a great movie. It was a fantastic movie. Marky Mark's accent was terrible.
but he's a Dorchester guy.
I know.
His accent should be the only good one in the whole thing.
Let's go-kart racing. Go-kart racing forever. And but no, yeah. Do they have you reviewing a movie this week?
Not that I know of. I'm actually in all 4 hours this week with Zoe and Johnson. So we'll get a lot of football talk for 4 hours on Friday this week.
That's cool, because I can't stand when I have to miss that hour. So getting you for 4 hours plus the hour that you've given us here has been really fantastic. Steve, you got anything else?
No, I just wanted to say thank you again to Phil for always being there for us. But whatever's in the water at Nick Folk's house, I want some.
There you go.
What a freak. Talk about physical specimens. Like, you can have Dietrich Wise. Give me Nick Folk. That guy, he's ridiculous. Like, he's not exactly built like a Greek god, but oh my God. I mean, it's just, he's incredible. He's just, I don't know how he's so consistent, dealing with the wind, dealing with everything that, he's got the different types of kicks. He's got Jake Bailey tilting the ball different ways depending on where they are in the field. It's just, he's unbelievable. To think that he was in the AFL.
Yep.
I don't think it was the XFL. I think he was
No.
in the AFL just a few years ago. It's unbelievable.
It is. It is. Like I say, kickers are weird, and when they get on a high, I'm just glad we've been spoiled here when it comes to kickers over the years.
We have.
And you know, kiss my ass, Giardi. Kickers count. They really do. But
Giardi
I
says
want.
they don't count.
But what?
Mike Giardi says kickers don't count.
Yeah, Mike doesn't like kickers. He doesn't think kickers should have anything to do with the. You can bring that up the next time you have him on your show.
What a cruel individual.
Oh, your
Yep,
show.
he is.
This
He
is
is.
not on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that too, Steve.
On
Yeah.
your
yeah.
other show. Your other show. I'm sorry.
Don't
it's my other
People
show
in
now.
glass
Oh.
houses shouldn't throw stones. That's all I'm going to say.
What? What'd I do? Yeah, it's just that Claire has Mike on the Claire perspective all the time. But I can't get through a
been
show
on as well,
anymore.
you know.
It used to be Brandon Bolden. Now it's Jack Jones. How impressed are you with what this young man has been able to do on the field as, you know, a rookie?
All right, I'm going to assume you meant Marcus Jones because we just did Jack Jones for we did
No,
like a
because
20
I meant John Jones. You
No, she meant
misheard me.
John
I
Jones.
meant John Jones, which was fine, and he means Jack Jones because that's his binky sort of thing. So yeah.
Well, now I don't know what to do because I feel like
Okay.
all right, John Jones has been great.
Yeah.
I love
Yep.
John Jones.
Yes.
He's Mr. Sure tackler. Jack Jones, for him to be top of the league still in terms of quarterback rating allowed and Pro Football Focus grade and all sorts of just insane, wild you know what stuff. As a rookie out of Arizona State, that I and a pick that I and others, but I will not speak for others. I'll speak for myself. I did not give that a high grade at the time.
I loved it.
I didn't give it. I hardly gave any picks hard grade or solid grade. Marcus Jones was the one pick I think I gave an A-. That one I still feel pretty good about. I think he's going to be a playmaker for them in the return game for a long time, and I think he can play defensively too. They're just pretty deep in that secondary right now, and even Miles Bryant makes a play against the Colts the other day. So he's not playing as much defensively, but Jack Jones has far exceeded my expectations. And I have gone back. I have regraded the draft, and maybe I'm going to have to regrade my regrades now at the end of the season because since I regraded and I think I gave the Cole Strange pick a B+ or something, he's now been benched twice in 2 games. So I don't know. I guess I should just hold off on all grades until everybody's retired and gone on to their next line of work before I do that, because that's what people will tell me. Why do you even do those? Yeah, you should wait 5 years. It's well, all right, but this is what I got to do now. I don't know. It's part of my job. Anyway,
I love it.
I love Jack Jones, and they love him too, Murph. You're not alone.
That's it. And he's
I
a
have
great
a Marcus
kid.
Jones question.
Oh,
Sorry.
God. All
I
right.
have a Marcus Jones question.
Yeah,
Very quickly. I was just speaking to Andy Haas on my show, Murph, and he mentioned that he thinks that Marcus Jones, that Bill should give Marcus Jones a chance on offense because he played it in college and he's super great. So I'll quick throw that at you. What do you think? What's your opinion on that matter?
Do it. Go for it.
Put him in the slot. Do it.
I've been saying it since they drafted him, honestly,
Yep.
because I had Doug Belk, who was the defensive coordinator for Houston.
Yep.
On talk about let's everybody plug their own podcast today.
There
on
you
the
go.
Next Shots podcast,
Yep.
I had Doug Belk on.
That was a great show.
Thank you, Murph. Thank you. He was awesome. But he said that Dana Holgorsen, who was the head coach at Houston, who also coached at Texas Tech and
Yep.
coached both Danny Amendola and Wes Welker, he said that Holgorsen said about Marcus Jones that he's got all the traits that those guys had to play on the offensive side and play in the slot.
Yep.
Two pretty good slot receivers for the New England Patriots. And that's a guy who knows both of them well. And he's saying that guy has the skill set required to play in the slot in the league. And the reason they didn't play him more offensively was because they needed him defensively, and he did a lot for them in terms of their coverage, and they still figured out a way to figure out how to use him on offense. And so, listen, I get it, as a rookie, might be a lot. You're asking the guy to handle a lot because you're already doing the special team stuff. You already have him playing some defense. He's backing up, he's backing up the slot, it feels like right now, with Miles Bryant. So you want him to be prepared to
yeah.
do all those things. But boy, when he has the ball in his hands, he just looks like a different kind of athlete. And so
He does.
I would try him there. We know Bill's not above it, right? So
No.
he let Edelman play defense. He let Slater play defense. Like he let Landon Roberts play fullback and catch a pass from Tom Brady at one point. Like he's not above it. Like, you know, did any of those guys do that as rookies? I don't think so. I don't think so. So that's maybe where the discrepancy is. But I would, if they feel like he's smart enough and he's a smart kid to be able to handle just a little bit of something offensively, even if it's just like screen game or it's, you know, hey, you're just going to be out there for these RPOs. And if you catch a bubble screen, we want you to take it to the house. Like, I think he could maybe find a way to do it. So Andy, in his massive head, he's got a massive brain in there. He's a smart guy. And I agree with him on this.
All right.
Cool.
Phil, I want to thank you so much for making the time again today, man. You always work with us whenever you can. And I
On location.
Yeah, even on location. Please tell everybody what you've got going on this week during the bye week. You already mentioned Friday. You're going to be on 98.5 The Sports Hub for 4 straight hours. I can't wait for that. I'm gonna take the entire day off just so I can enjoy that sucker.
Please do that. Please check us out there. We'll also be on Early Edition the rest of the week here with Trenny. We have the game plan will still be on this week, even though there's no game coming up.
Okay.
So we'll still be on there with Giles, Curran. That's later today. It's Wednesday. And make sure you're keeping an eye out for the next Pats podcast this week because we've got a very special guest. That show actually should be out later today. Very special guest. A guy you all know and love to hear from. And all I'll say is, given the Patriots' issues on the offensive line, pretty good guest to have this week. So just keep an eye out for that. But that's all of our written stuff, will be on Twitter at Phil Perry.
We call that a teaser, folks, in the business, and nobody teases like Phil. Ask his wife. Nobody teases like Phil. Phil, thanks again, and I want to thank everybody that was in the chat room today, putting up some fantastic questions. Sorry we didn't get to them all. It's not often that we get to talk to Phil, and we monopolized this time. I'm sorry, guys. Claire, take us out.
Well, that's it for another edition of One Patriots Place Live, brought to you by E2Gsports.com. And if you were listening on podcast, thank you for downloading. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. We have been your hosts, Steve Balestreri, Thomas Murphy. I have been Claire Cooper. He has been the wonderful Phil Perry. Thank you for your time and your insight, Phil. So tune in next time, folks, and go Pats.